Welcome to this teaching video. It's Paul Donovan here. Today we're talking about use of power, and in particular I'm going to use one of the 7 scales that the Diamond Power Index has told us is a wonderful way to understand how to use your power better. So today you're going to get some insights into what it's like to be experienced as either intimidating or approachable. You'll understand the benefits of being experienced as approachable and how, in fact, to make sure you become one of those managers who is experienced as approachable. Now, of course, this is all about power. This particular teaching video, this short lump of insight that I hope you get over the next 10 minutes is addressing a topic rarely addressed directly, but of central importance to the issue of leadership. It's just that it's rarely discussed in the way that I'm about to talk about it with you. And that's been difficult because we just haven't had the research which has allowed us to do that. We have it now. Today is not a sales video. You don't have to buy anything, and I have no financial take in the use of that scale whatsoever. But those 7 scales do give us an insight into how you're using power. And today we're looking at the first one, which is intimidating versus approachable. So, what is it? So what does this scale measure, and why is it so important for managers? Now, this scale measures how accessible you are to others, how open to feedback you are, whether you foster the free exchange of ideas, whether you promote collaboration, and whether you encourage participation. And before you think, I'm a nice guy and that how can I be experienced as intimidating, we know from research that most managers vastly underestimate how intimidating they are. In fact, in a study in Harvard Business Review in the middle of 2019, 2/3 of the 4,000 managers said that those reporting to them would experience little or no sense of intimidation with them. Now, they were sure of that, but in fact the same research showed that a majority of people in fact felt intimidated in one degree or another by their bosses. In fact, we do not take a good read of this. If you are in a position where you are the boss, you have a certain rank, and that rank is going to bring down your ability to determine how intimidating you are. So I just want to encourage you, don't trust your initial gut feel on this. Don't trust it. Assume you're being experienced as more intimidating than you might feel you are as a person. Because it's not about you, it's about your role. It's about your role. So let's go and have a look at this. Here we go. So if you're experienced right down the other end here as intimidating, then you're being experienced as strong-willed, domineering, and inaccessible. So if you're experienced somewhat in the middle, well then it's a little bit different. And then you're going to be experienced as just simply dominating conversations and a little overbearing. But if you're experienced right up there in the approaching, well that's the sweet spot, and that's where you're going to get the outcomes you want. You're going to be experienced as approachable, fair, and supportive. Now, I'm going to ask you, as you're watching this video, draw a line across and consider where you are on that line. And remember, you are probably not in a great position to know the actual truth. So wherever you've put that line right now, inch it a little way towards the intimidating end, and you might be close to the truth. Sad but true. This is why this is such a misuse of power. This is such a misuse of power. It's because if you're the manager, you have a platform from which to use your voice. And if you are lazy, and if you're not conscious about how you use that platform, then, as this text shows you, if you overindulge in speaking your point of view, you vent your feelings, or you criticize the view of others, or even find yourself criticizing the people themselves, then you're misusing your power. You're misusing the power. It's power given to you by virtue of the rank you have as a manager. A rank you have as your manager. Even as I say this, I can remember a particular client I was working with. And gosh, it was really interesting because I was sitting with him as he was facilitating a meeting with his own team. He was there, people were sharing and making comment, and I noticed how easy it was for him to pass judgment on a particular point of view. and how easy it was for him just to actually just dismiss particular points of view. No one else in that room felt they had quite as much permission to do it. Of course, he didn't experience himself later in when I debriefed him. He did not experience himself as doing that, but he felt more at ease and comfortable in that meeting than anyone else. What was interesting in that meeting is halfway through, to his surprise, his boss and his boss's boss walked into that room to enjoy and to participate in the meeting with him. Oh, wow. Now, what's interesting that happened is the minute they arrived, he no longer had the rank of manager. There were more people in the room who were more senior than him. So as a consequence, he just became someone who was more able to listen. He asked for feedback more. He gave feedback to what people were saying in a more respectful manner. It all changed because he was no longer the most senior person in the room. When I debriefed with him, he was barely aware of it. And I want to let you know that it's something that happens biochemically within us. We are very, very insensitive generally to the effect it has on us of when we have rank in the room. When we have rank in the room. When he had rank, he behaved differently from when he didn't. You know, most of us are aware of this, aren't we? When we're in a room and we have rank, we behave in one way. But when you have to walk into the board of directors and make a proposal for something, we behave a little differently. It's basically human nature. But our job as managers is to become awake to this, because it's nothing other than a misuse of power if we fall asleep on these matters. If you use this well, if you use your platform well, then the outcomes are extraordinary. First of all, if you're experienced as approachable, you will be accessible, you'll be easier to provide feedback, participation, fostering of ideas. We're now talking about a team that hums, that is more able to engage and work with complex problems and create safety in the space that they require. You are creating psychological safety if your experience is approachable. If you're not experienced as that, but rather more on the other side here as intimidating, well, the outcomes are actually very unfortunate. You get bad news late. Others won't speak freely around you. They don't give you candid feedback of what's going on. In fact, they may even find you scary and unpredictable. Your team doesn't anymore become the agile, problem-solving unit that you might dream of. You will be undermining the collective intelligence in your team if your experience is intimidating. It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's all about you as the manager and how well you're using your power. Okay, so let's go to some practical hints. You ready? Here's what you can do. Now, I'm going to start with what you can do if you're experienced down the intimidating end, and then we're going to move up. Okay, first of all, if you're really experienced right down that end, you've got to watch out for your outbursts, your cynicism, sarcasm, because that's the telltale sign. If your experience is truly intimidating, then you really are indulging in venting really negative feelings, and that creates a lack of safety for others. As you move up the scale, things change a little bit. Here you just want to become aware, are you over-talking in meetings? Are you saying too much? And as you move further up the scale, well, the advice is a little bit different. Explain the reasons for your disagreement without criticizing the person. Actively seek out the view of others. And when you make a proposal for something, when you think that something should be done, or this is the reason why we're getting the outcomes we are, ask for feedback, not just on whether you're right or wrong, but ask for feedback on the reasoning for your thinking. So as we're moving up the scale towards approachable, the things you need to look for change a little bit, change. And in fact, as you go further up, here I'm going to make sure that you encourage you to makes time and space for others to speak. And then if you're right up the top in approachable, there's the zone to really, your advice, the advice I'd give to you is time to really bring richness to the dialogue. Learn the science of advocacy and inquiry. When you advocate a point of view, teach your team to advocate the point of view and explain the reasonings about how they got there. If you inquire upon someone else's point of view, ask for their reasoning how they've got there. Oh, and by the way, when you make your point of view, make sure you ask for feedback on your reasoning, not just whether you're right or wrong. These are the great hints that Peter Singh brought to us in the learning organization right back in the 90s, and they're absolutely critical. So you probably notice how it changes if you're down at the intimidating end and as you move up towards the approaching end. The advice I'm giving you is a little different. Doesn't matter where you start. It doesn't matter. Just move yourself decisively towards the approachable end, and you will create a team that can manage greater complexity. So here's a little exercise I'd like to ask you to do just to start with. Draw a line down the bottom of a page, and down one end writes talks a lot in meetings and the other talks very little, and then see whether, at least for your direct reports, you can locate who is who across that continuum. So then you've got a map of the people who spend more time in meetings. None of them are doing anything wrong, but your task is to see whether you can disrupt that. We don't want the same people dominating every meeting. If it's not you in the meeting, or even if it is you, we want to make sure that you can create more even sharing of airtime in your meetings. Plan how to get those who speak very little to say more. You might like to prime them before a meeting about what you want to ask them. You may want to ask them to make contribution on certain topics. You might like to gently encourage those who say a lot in meetings to just pull back a little bit in the interest of allowing those who say little to say more. All right, so that's your exercise for today. I hope you've enjoyed this short video. Remember, how you use your power is critical to how you're experienced as a manager. And if you want to be approachable, great business outcomes are coming your way. I'll see you soon in my next video. Bye for now.